Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Warriors Group podcast with Albert Ramos. We're here and we're going to be talking today about normal things to expect as a first time home buyer. Because if you haven't been there, you sometime throughout your life, you will experience, so I hope that you get to experience what it feels to be through the home buying process, right? Because it's definitely a roller coaster. So I want to make sure that I guide you through what is the best way on some of the things that you will be experiencing throughout your home buying process. So let's get started. So the first thing that we're going to cover, because it's the most common thing that I get whenever I meet a potential client, is, whoa, hold on a second. This is moving way too fast. And that is completely normal. I understand that you set yourself a timeline of where you thought, and based on previous experiences that you might heard, you might think that this process actually takes longer than what it really does. But whenever you get a good realtor, that realtor is working 24/7 for you to ensure that this process is an open and shut case. So how long does this process actually take? This process can take anywhere from 21 to 30 days. That's how long this should take. And if you have a good realtor, this process can take as short as 14 days. I've actually had what's called a clear to close on 14 days after we open up escrow, right? Now, there are a couple of things, and I have a separate video talking about the things that need to happen once you actually open up escrow. However, I understand if you feel that the process is moving way too fast. So how can we mitigate you feeling that this is not moving way too fast? Well, that has to do with communication with your realtor. And I'm not talking about communication that happens during those 21 to 30 days. This is communication that happens before, meaning in the search and find mission that you are supposed to have with your realtor. Okay, so the realtor needs to set the expectation that once you actually get into contract, this can be a hurry up and wait moment, because at the very beginning, meaning that first week, there is a lot of things that need to happen. And that's when you are going to start to feel oh man, this is moving absolutely way too fast. So that's the very first thing that you need to understand, that if you have oh man, this is moving way too fast, I wasn't expecting this to be moving as fast as it is, this is completely normal to feel. The second thing that you might be experiencing is buyer's remorse. Think about it. Your mortgage or your potential mortgage that you're about to receive is going to be literally the biggest purchase that you've ever done in your entire life up to this moment. Not only that, it's the biggest expense that you will have on a monthly basis. So I understand that as a first-time home buyer, that's a scary feeling, right? Now, the way to address the buyer's remorse, again, is by communication that you have. And not only that, by you expressing that communication with your realtor. Let's say, for example, one of the biggest things that always happens whenever I'm out showing a home and I see that my client is starting to experience a buyer's remorse, is usually during the inspection time frame. Because whenever you hire a property inspector to go out there and inspect your property or the property that you're about to buy, he, by law, has to put all the information that is wrong with that property. That way you understand what is it that you're getting yourself into. That is not designed to scare you. That is designed to advise you to see if the decision that you're making is a good property. Now, the thing is that a lot of people experience buyer's remorse is whenever they put, let's say, for example, whenever they put information about the electricity panel. Some people say, and inspectors are required by law to inform that the electricity panel is not up to code and it's not up to standards. That doesn't mean that it's a faulty electric panel. That just means that it's out to date, because after a certain amount of date, that electric panel needed to be a different electric panel up to a different code. A lot of people say like, well, you know what? I'm not buying the home unless the electric panel it's changed. And I was like, whoa, hold your horses there a minute, because that is something that might derail the sale because the electric panel is not faulty. It's just under different electric standards. Okay, so that's one of the things that a lot of clients, because I've had it in the past, to where they experience that buyer's remorse based on stuff that is not up to a different code, or they see things that they don't fully understand in their property inspection. So what I always recommend, that once you get that report, go over it with your realtor so that way he can put you at ease. Remember, the realtor works for you and has the best interest at heart for you. Okay? Because this is another thing that I always tell people whenever they're my clients. And because obviously realtors, they get paid if on a commission basis if they sell a home. That is true. But guess what? We also work in our communities, and I gain absolutely nothing by screwing you in a sale of a home. The reason for it is because you're buying a home in a community that I serve, and I want to ensure that I have longevity in that community. So I want to make sure that you get the best deal possible to ensure that you keep recommending me to your new neighbors in your community and to all your friends. Because if I screw you, trust me, what I'm doing is I am shooting myself in the foot. So I am always going to have the best interest at heart. The third thing that you can expect during that escrow period is for you're going to sign a lot of paperwork, okay? And that is completely normal. You will be receiving paperwork from 3 different entities, okay? That is your realtor, it's going to be your loan officer, and it's going to be from the escrow company. Those 3 companies represent 3 different things throughout the transaction. So as a first-time home buyer, a lot of people tend to get confused on what paperwork is what. Should I sign this? Should I not sign this? Not only that, you got to think some of that paperwork, sometimes we miss signatures and we got to resend it to you. So you might sign the same thing 2 or 3 times because some signatures were missed. This is also another thing that's completely normal, okay? If at any point you feel that you do not understand or you do not feel comfortable because you don't understand the paperwork that you're signing, get a hold of your realtor or get a hold of that mortgage lender that you have, or get a hold of the escrow officer that you have, so that way they can go over in detail with the paperwork. We're in 2022, guys. Most of the paperwork that is going to require for you to be signed can be signed through digitally. But there is one piece of paperwork that will have to be signed and notarized in person. The most common thing that catches people by surprise whenever it comes into going into escrow, if you're utilizing the VA loan, is the VA funding fee. And let me break it down. Whenever you are assigned an escrow number, right? Or let's say, let me scale it back. You put in an offer. The offer is at $400,000, right? You put in an offer of $400,000. When you go into escrow and they send you the initial disclosures, you see that your loan is $408,000 or $412,000. A lot of people tend to get on the phone and be like, Albert, why, if we offered $400,000, my loan is up to $412,000? Well, guys, that is because you had a good lender that included the VA funding fee and rolled the VA funding fee into your pre-approval without changing the amount of interest that you have to pay. Did I lose you? Hopefully I didn't lose you. Let me break that down and let me say that again, okay? Whenever you put an offer for $400,000 and you're utilizing the VA loan, you have to understand that unless you are a disabled veteran with more than 10% of disability or more, you have to pay the VA funding fee. The VA funding fee is 2.3% of the loan. That gets rolled over unless you want to pay it, which I don't foresee. Why is it that you will want to pay that? you have to actually, or you can roll that into your loan. That is the best way of doing it. And you have to understand that on top of that, you also have to pay your closing cost. Okay? So that's the biggest thing that I see that catches people by surprise. It's, oh my God, my loan is not $400,000. It's $408,000. Okay? So to put you at ease, I want you guys to understand that. The other common thing that a lot of people have is naysayers, especially right now in this market. There is a lot of naysayers, meaning you shouldn't be buying a home right now. Interest rates are through the roof right now. And I want to take you guys back to 2012 when it was Corporal Ramos and not Gunnery Sergeant Ramos. Corporal Ramos back then had some money saved up because I just got back from deployment and I really didn't know what to do with my deployment money. And I was like, man, you know what? Maybe I should buy a home. And I talked to one of my staff NCOs and he's like, what? Are you crazy? How are you going to buy a home right now? The market just crashed in 2008, 2009. We're still recovering and the interest rates are through the roof. Back then, people were looked at crazy if you were to consider to buy a home in Temecula. And that is exactly what I did not do. So I started looking at Oceanside. I was like, man, you know what? Back then in behind the San Luis Rey Gate, there were new constructions back then, beginning at the mid $500,000 to low $500,000. As a corporal, that could have been a lot of money. Quite honestly, that could have been a lot of money. I probably would, out of my paycheck back then, I probably would have to be putting like $200 a month towards my mortgage. And I listened to my staff sergeant. And my staff sergeant won. Because if I would have kept that home, I would have close to $400,000 in equity right now. Because those homes are more than $900,000 right now. So let that sink in. I listened to the naysayers. And because I listened to the naysayers, I lost on $400,000 in equity. Think about it. That can be your retirement money right there. That can be your investment money right there. That could be all the money that you can leave in order for you to build generational wealth for your family. So, while some doors open for some buyers, some door closes for another one. And I will do a separate video talking about how is it that right now is a great time for VA buyers specifically to be in the real estate market and win in this market. The last thing that you can expect right now as of December 2022 as a first-time home buyer is that your mortgage payment is going to be high, okay? Your mortgage payment is going to be high. There's no denying it, okay? However, the reason why that is important to understand is because you can still get in the real estate game. Look at one of my podcasts that I did in last year in 2021 or the beginning of 2022. What I was explaining or what I was trying to explain was that this was going to happen. Right back in the beginning of 2021, at the beginning of 2022, you could buy a 2,500 square feet home and still get a good affordable payment. Now, you're going to be paying the exact same thing for a 1,800 square feet townhome that you could have paid back in 2021 or 2022 for a single family residence of 2,500 square feet or more. Just because the interest rates are high does not mean that you are being kicked out of the real estate market. That means that your purchased price or your purchase power actually decreased. Does not mean that you are out of the market. So with that, my friends, I am going to leave you. I'll see you guys in the next podcast, which we'll be talking about PCSing. We'll be talking about deployments. We'll be talking about and introducing our newest agents with the Warriors Group and how is it that we are having veterans and active duty Marines and military service members win in this market. So I'll see you guys in the next one.